going to be great, Tiff.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for doing this.
Get ready. Total pleasure, always. Well, total, but mostly.
All right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
What time is it?
The audio.
The black box, yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes, I've turned off the streaming. I can't. Yeah. I think I've done that. I think I turned it off. I can't. Once you've turned it off, you can't turn it back on again without switching the box off and on again.
Can we move?
Yeah, I don't need any of that. Sorry? It doesn't work. You can do it one way, but you can't do it the other. It's there now. Yeah. Have you got the holding card on then? On. Doesn't look like it.
We've got.
Hello. Welcome to Singing with Nightingales. I'm Sam Lee. I'm in a wood in Sussex, and it's just getting slightly dark now. We're hearing the evening chorus, and really pleased you could all join us. This is actually just a starter introduction to say hello, because before I dive straight into the storytelling and the songs, I wanted to give you a few moments with this darkening wood, and just to have a few moments just to listen into the chorus of birds as they are preparing for their night. I'm going to be coming back and talking and singing all night long, so you'll be hearing plenty of me. So I thought it'd be really nice just to have a little quiet and meditation. You can carry on, go and make yourself a cup of tea, put this sound on as loud as you can just to listen to this glorious symphony of birds. So we're going to be about 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe. I'm going to be coming back just before 9 o'clock to start the concert and the songs, and really looking forward to sharing more with you then. See you in just a few minutes. Many thanks. Good evening. Hello. Welcome to my campfire, um, to these woods here in Sussex, just near Lewes, um, and to a very special first edition of the Singing with Nightingales live at home, part of our Netflix series put together by myself, Sam Lee, and the Nest Collective. I'm really pleased that you're here joining us. I've been seeing some of the chat beforehand and see that there's people coming from far and wide. So it's really lovely to welcome you to some springtime woods and to this fireside, to my little grove, where I am going to be telling you some stories over the next hour or so, and singing some songs and telling you a little bit about the whole night, which I think I'm going to start with. So, Singing with Nightingales event happens here in these woods every year for 6 weeks, and it happens for a live audience. About 30 of us come and join me round this fire. Sometimes we do it in the log cabin just over there, sometimes over here, depending on the weather. And we spend the night eating and feasting and singing songs and telling stories. And then once the Nightingales have started singing, who live that way down in the valley in the Blackthorn, a very rare bird, which I'll be saying more about. We go down and visit them and spend some amazing time in meditation, listening to them. Alas, that's not happening this year in that form, but we have managed to create this and have some amazing musicians joining us. And for the next 9 nights, I'm going to be here going through the amazing episodes of The Nightingale. Tonight, we're really lucky to have Matthew Barley, an incredible cellist who's at home in London right now. He would have been out here with us. What a shame, but what an opportunity for Matthew to be dialing in to the Nightingales and what we're going to be hearing later with the audio only broadcast, because we'll be traveling down there. It'll be totally pitch black and we can't carry the fire with us. Means that you will be just bathed in sound alone. And yeah, Matthew and myself will be trying to find a nightingale and we'll be singing along. So the way this is all happening, I should say, the technical side of this is that we have built some amazing technology that in these very Wi-Fi free woods, reception of in any sort free woods, we've built a black broadcasting box and an enormous aerial that we can telescope up and down, and we are tapping into 3G signal a little bit higher up than we could reach, and drawing out the strongest signal and doing this through through that means, through the computer. So at times you might find that the signal gets a little bit weak because we are at the mercy of whatever's going on up in the atmosphere. So apologies if the bandwidth thins out, if bits of me drop away, if the sound disappears. Certainly for the video. For the audio, it's definitely should be very strong. But thanks for obliging with this technical daring feat that the BBC themselves would never go near: live video broadcasting round a fire. Only the Nest Collective would risk something as foolish and romantic as this, I like to think. Anyway, so that's what's going to be happening. We've got also partnership with the RSPB for tonight, and we'll be connecting with them through a poem that they've given us to read. More of that from 10 o'clock with the audio. And we have the next hour just to sit and for me to tell you some stories and occasionally feed the fire, get the light up, let us know if it's not bright enough, if you're having any issues, give us your feedback. Please tell us where you are, what it's like sitting around the fire with us. Maybe you have a fire in your front or back garden and are sharing in that way. That would be absolutely wonderful too. Without further ado, I hope you're comfortable and relaxed, because I'm going to start us off tonight with a song before we go deep into the world of the bird. And as we're in Sussex, I thought no better than to start with a Sussex classic, and a song, although not about the nightingale, is a song that for me is a wonderful way to open up a night like this and a season like this, and tell the story of the power of nature, because that's what this event is all about. It's about connecting in with the natural world, and we are going through one of the most beautiful springs we have ever experienced. Certainly in my lifetime, it's incredible. It is turned somewhat in the last couple of days, but nonetheless, this is a song about a journeyman, a roving wanderer by the name of Spencer the Rover. And it's a very old folk song telling the story of a man who is in a state of turmoil, of upheaval, of life, unhappiness. Perhaps he's suffering from depression. We don't know. The old language kind of says he is much reduced and is in great confusion. And he's gone on the roam. And really, that's, I sort of feel like, for a song, for tapping into the shared grief that we are, and tumult and issues that our wider society, both in the UK and abroad, are feeling right now with the lockdown crisis. Here is a song about finding nature as a source of compassionate, sympathetic awareness about a greater thing that can take care of us and give us comfort. This is Spencer the Rover. These words were composed by Spencer the Rover, who travelled most parts of Great Britain and Wales. He had been so reduced, which caused great confusion. And that was the reason he went on the road. In Yorkshire near Rotherham, he had been on his rambles, being weary of travelling. He sat himself down at the foot of yonder mountain. There runs a clear fountain with bread and cool water. He went on the road, and it tasted more sweeter than the gold he had squandered, more sweeter than honey, and it gave more content. But the thoughts of his babies lamenting their father brought tears to his eyes and made him lament. Well, the night fast approaching, to the woods he resorted, with woodbine and ivy his bed for two made. There he dreamt about crying, lamenting and sighing. Go home to your family and your ramblings forsake. On the 5th of November, I've a reason to remember when first he arrived at his family's front door. Oh, they looked so surprised when first he arrived to behold such a stranger once more in their sight. And his children came around him with their brittle prattling stories, with their brittle prattling stories to drive care away. Now they are united like birds of one feather, like bees in one hive, contented they'll be, contented they'll be, and go rambling no more. Thank you. Spencer the Rover from the Copper family, who lived just down Southwood in Rottingdean and Peacehaven. Amazing singing family, and yeah, for me a very powerful song. Song that tells of that being in this environment, out in the restorative experience of being in the woods, which I hope, you know, in your confinements, you are finding a way out to find some peace and green and smell the smells of what's going on right now, the hyacinthine fragrance of the bluebells that surround me right now. I don't know if you can see them very well, but we have blue carpets. The blue belly, I like to think the earth has got a belly that's turned blue, which is where the name comes from. And and that song is all about that, the voice of nature saying, come, you know, think of the important things and come home. And this is home right now for me, and I hope for you too. I hope you've all got in some ways, a hearth nearby, near you, at the center of wherever you are, because this is where it all began, and this whole journey that we are going on for the next 9 nights, to weave in the many stories and tales of a bird that many people know by name. Maybe some of you have heard the bird uh, in recordings. Maybe some of you have heard the bird in real life. If you have heard the bird in real life, I'd love to know where. Maybe you could put on the live chat, just type in the name of wherever it was, or any memories that you have. Maybe you've heard one this season already. We only have 5,500 pairs in this country left, which is a massive rate of decline, decline of around 85+% per year. We're losing them at on average, and a bird set to go extinct from this country within the next 35 years. So in my lifetime, it's very likely that I will see and hear the last nightingale on this island. It is a very sad thought that for one of our red list endangered species, like many of our birds that you've been hearing earlier, a wonderful sound of some Canada geese flying overhead as I was singing there, finding their way home. Birds are in great peril right now, a massive rate of decline. We've lost 40 million birds, a population decline of 40 million within the last 30, 40 years. And really, they are the litmus test of the land, of what's going on, the health of the land. And although I won't go on about it now, the nightingales, in many ways, and all birds, are the canaries in the mine of the state of health of our planet. And yet also one of the most exquisite expressions that this planet can possibly make. I'll be saying more about the ecological side of the nightingale later on in this series. But tonight is the public night for all of you to join. And I will just be doing a sort of brief overview of the life of the bird. I also want to say, before I dive in there, a huge thank you to all of you who've supported us, the Nest Collective, this Sing with Nightingales project, and some of the other projects that we're doing in the Nest Collective. As an arts organisation, like all arts organisations, we have been hit terribly badly, and the future of the arts is in massive peril, from some of the big institutions down to us little small whippersnappers like the Nest Collective, and the generosity of you all listening to us as an arts organisation to enable arts and to make art happen and music happen and to support musicians, and perseverance of folk acoustic world music. It's so important to have your support, so thank you very, very much. And if you are watching and would like to help support us, and help us fund more of these sorts of projects ahead, and allow more and more musicians to maintain a professional career, please see the donate button that is down there. Everything is you can offer is greatly appreciated, and those who do donate also get access to the 9 nights, well, the 7 nights to follow. We have 2 publics and 7 of the donors and ticket holders, people who had tickets for these events in advance, and those will be much more storytelling into specific chapters, and I'll tell you about them very soon. So the Nightingales live just in this part of England, in the southeast. There's a line you could draw from the Humber down to the Severn Estuary that way for you, under which, to the southeast of which, is the range of the Nightingale, but really limited to their heartlands that are the very east coast of Suffolk and the Essex, Kent and Sussex. Those 3 counties are the real heartlands of Nightingales, where actually there's been a slight population increase lately in recent years. But then heading out further westwards and into Oxfordshire and Gloucestershire, where there are still populations of nightingales, though really thinning out, disappearing very fast. And the males have just returned in the last 2 weeks. The first song was heard at Knepp Castle, as far as I'm aware, by the amazing Burrells and Isabella Tree on the Rewilding estate on the 7th of April, which is when they first landed on their massive journey that they set off from the sub-Saharan Africa's Sierra Leone, Guinea-Bissau, and all along that west coast of Africa, in the kind of rupine scrub forests where they've been wintering, and around late February they left there for this magnificent journey that they take all the way from that part round the side of the Sahara, sometimes across the Sahara if needs be, if weather's not permitting, generally round the side of the Sahara, over north of Africa, up to the Straits of Gibraltar, across into Spain, where they'll fly over to north of Spain or into France, and up towards the southern coast, the English Channel, where they'll leap across. And the males return first. They fly at night, like a lot of migrating birds, flying very high, not as high as the cuckoo, who flies almost the height of a passenger aeroplane when they are traveling back from the same very places. The cuckoos and nightingales winter in the same parts of the world. And the minute they land straight back to the place that they were born within about 200 meters, if they can, or they have to go and find new territory. And instantly, come nighttime, they will start their night song. And this is the famous courtship song. They will sing during the day, and we'll hear snatches of their song, not nearly as prolific or with the bravado that they have at night when the silence has reigned across the land. They will take to their roosts in their blackthorn scrub, which they mark out very defensively with each other from the other males. And then they sing up and out and around. So on nights like tonight, as the females are passing back one by one, they are listening down for the males to entice down into their scrub or blackthorn. And their little courtship begins, and once the male has found his mate, the singing stops. So as the season goes on, the songs that we are hearing, the things that we are hearing, are only coming from bachelors who have yet not struck lucky. So tonight we're sort of half hoping that maybe fortunes coming up later on in the month. We're still early in the season, so the singing has been good and strong in the nights that I've been down to hear the Nightingales.
we've had about 8 to 10 different males singing, which is a much big increase. So what's happening here in this little secret spot of Sussex is a very good thing. We've been doing lots of conservation work to manage the scrub and maintain a constant cycle, because the nightingales love human activity. They love the coppicing work, the cutting back of brushes. You're seeing here in this coppice of silver birch and hornbeam and some standard oaks, and a little bit of hazel. They love that sort of environment. When we come in, this is quite an old coppice and cut back after about 5 years of regrowth, that dense, prolific explosion of green that happens in that environment is the absolute perfect environment. And for about 4 or 5 years, they will find sanctuary in there and nest very close to the ground, or on the ground indeed, really deeply entangled, protected by that thicket. They also love that sort of overgrown hedgerow of blackthorn and hawthorn and brambles that creates this, I imagine, like a thorny green blister on the land. One of those bits of the landscape which you just think is impenetrable and you can't go anywhere near. Those are absolute nightingale havens. And in fact, indeed, for all species of birds and insects, it's a very, very ecologically rich environment, that. And those blisters inside is a hollow, leggy stems of the blackthorn. And around there, they will peck around for grubs and spiders and small invertebrates, which is much of their diet. And they love that because it's protected from predators, from eagles and birds of prey from above, and also from the sides. It's very hard for stoats and weasels and those sorts of creatures to get in. So they are very specific on where they live. And in fact, they are real indicators of an ecologically very prolific environment. They only like places where there is a real diversity in insects and plant life, and host to a very broad biodiversity. So if you've got nightingales, you're very nearby you, you're very lucky, and it's very good land. Hence why they are declining so fast, because the loss of that habitat and the agricultural practices are very problematic for maintaining that sort of messy environment, that sort of slightly unmanaged. They don't like cut lawns and nice verges. Not for nightingales. We've got I'm going to put some more wood on the fire, I think, first of all, because it's getting a little bit dark and I'm feeling the cold. But nightingales, that's a little bit about the ecology of the nightingale. What we have with them is a bird that through his song has entered into our folklore, our mythology, through into our stories and our literature and our prose, to become, and I'm just talking about us here in the UK, this is the case across much of the Northern Hemisphere where they live, because they're a lot more prolific, and they are a very common bird on the continent. In fact, there are several million of them living on the continent very well. There are 1,500 males living in Berlin, in the parks in Berlin alone. So when we only have 5,500 left in the country, it's saying something about the way the British are looking after our environment here. Enough said on that. So they have become a kind of a significant principal bird of many different cultures. In fact, you'll find that the name for nightingale in many of the European languages is synonymous with the national term of being of the language. The Slovak, for instance, in Slovakia, is the name of the nightingale. The rossignol in France, the russignole in Italian, many different wonderful names. Nachtigall in German, and variants of that from the Germanic languages. The name nightingale, night gale, night wind or songstress, gale being that idea of the breeze, of the song. So often, but for a long time, has been known as a bird connected with the nighttime, with a romantic adventure. And indeed, throughout the ages, the nightingale has become entwined with many of the great Greek myths. There are songs and stories that go back thousands of years of the nightingale. And of course, that's all that we have left in evidence today. The nightingale would have had great impact upon us as civilization, growing societies for tens of thousands of years. Um, Indeed, I like to think that, and maybe more to be going into this later on. I'll save this for May Day, maybe, but on the 1st of May, which is the great, important international holiday of celebration of the coming in of summer. But the power of the nightingale and its association with love and romance and fecundity is so much to do with the idea that this is a bird that sings at a time of year that is so very connected with the death and regeneration of the cycle of life. That when we have our ancient forefathers and ancestors having survived through a bleak, hard winter, eking out our reserves and stores, and the first shoots of spring that appear in late March, early April are absolute heaven sent signs that we have survived the harsh winter and that nutrients is coming back. And that entered into a time of great rejoicement and ceremony and praise, and indeed things like Easter, and these great ritualistic celebrations of the spring are all testament to that, and they are all associated. A lot of those festivals are associated, certainly May Day, with great rejoicement and debauchery and drinking. You just have to look what's going on in Cornwall, in Padstow, and down in Hastings near here for Jack in the Green. A great rejoicement happens, and within that time, it was a lot of licentious behavior, let's just say, would be going on, and all the while the song of the nightingale would be filling the groves and the hedgerows and the landscape in association. And I think throughout the years, the hundreds and thousands of years that we've been practicing these rituals, the nightingale has been our soundtrack and been singing out that exquisite sound of the sound of the land, saying, "I'm here, I'm alive, I'm back, we have survived. Let's make love." And so it is indeed that many of the folk songs that we sing in this country, at least, have much connection to the nightingale, which makes me think I should probably sing another song because I've done lots of talking. So here goes for another folk song. I'm going to sing to you a little bit of the song called "The Nightingale," actually, and this is a wonderful version that I heard with the beautiful. I think this is actually an Irish tune that's being used for it, although it's a bird that doesn't ever exist in Ireland, never made it over to Ireland. Alas, that's beyond the nightingale's territory. So here goes. As I was a-walking one morning in May, I spied a young couple, so sweet they did play. And one was a fair maid, and a beauty so fair, and the other was a soldier, and a brave grenadier. And they kissed so sweet and comforting as they clung to each other. They went arm in arm along the road, like sister and brother. They went arm in arm along the road, till they came to a spring. And they both sat down together, love, to hear the nightingale sing. Then out of his knapsack he drew a fine fiddle, and he played her such a merry tune as you ever did hear. And he played her such a merry tune, made the woods there for to ring. Hark, hark, cried the fair maid, hear the nightingale sing. Oh, up spoke the fair maid, will you marry me? Oh, no, says the fair maid, the soldier that never can be. For I have my own wife at home, in my own country, and she is the fairest that you ever did see. And they kissed so sweet and comforting as they clung to each other. They went arm in arm along the road, like sister and brother. They went arm in arm along the road, till they came to a spring. And they both sat down together, love, to hear the nightingale sing. An old song there. Many more verses to that song, which I didn't sing tonight. Maybe other nights I'll sing the other verses. A song of filth and appalling behavior, in my opinion. Um, and yeah, how are you all doing? Are you having a nice evening? Are you all somewhere that you want to be, with people you want to be with? I hope so. Um, I know these are strange times, but it's something we've got to go through, and I hope that through experiences like this, we will be reminded of um, the joys and that we have with our community and the connection we have with each other that's still there despite the physical distancing we're going through. Certainly some of the things that I've been part of, I've never felt more connected to a global community, particularly our Nightingale broadcast we did on Earth Day last week. And thank you so much if you were there for listening. We did 3 hours with some incredible musicians, and just hearing all the responses from you all as we were doing that was magnificent. And later on, when we're just on audio, I'll be able to connect in a little bit more when we have Matthew Barley playing with cello as well, which I'm so excited. One of my absolute musical heroes, wonderful, wise man with an extraordinary voice. So we've got just a few minutes left of this broadcast, and so I thought I'd just tell you a little bit more about this project here, Sing with Nightingales, and how it came to be. Its relationship to a very, very famous woman called Beatrice Harrison. And she pioneered in the UK. She's our sort of origin story. She pioneered the first ever live radio broadcast, which before then only radio had only ever been broadcast from the studio in London, from Broadcasting House. And she and the radio engineers took it out into her back garden in Oxted in Surrey on the 14th of May in 1924. And this was a very, very daring feat. And I never felt more sympathetic to what Beatrice Harrison was going through at that time, because indeed the rig that has been set up for this tonight is absolutely terrifying that it might not work. And indeed, there's a lot of similarities. They had just sort of pioneered some technology of these really brand new state-of-the-art microphones that the BBC wanted to test out, and this mobile unit. And they went to her, they took the van there, and they unwound about a mile of cable on the, actually was the 18th, it was the 19th, on the 18th of May they did this. I got the wrong date, apologies. And on the 18th, and they got there already set up with her and her cello and there was no nightingale. No nightingale sang. So they went back the next night on the 19th, and they had it all there ready to go, and they're waiting for their nightingale. And I think they were broadcasting a recording from the Albert Hall that had been made of a great orchestra. I can't remember. I'll find this out for which one it was. And the nightingale started singing, at which point the announcer interrupted the broadcast. That would not happen today, and said, "We are sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we have to switch over to Oxford and Surrey for this monumental event in which Beatrice played her cello with the nightingale." And I should say it's very important to know that this was an idea that was much sort of frowned upon by the BBC at first. Lord Reith, who was then controller of the BBC, was really actually not very interested in this idea, thought it was wouldn't be of any interest. And it took the engineers who were doing this to convince Lord Reith that actually this is what needed to be done. And so it happened reluctantly, and indeed the outpouring of love from the wider public, there was 50,000 letters poured into the BBC the next following week, all just rejoicing in this broadcast, and it became an absolute national sensation. Everybody in the land, remember, this is just between the two world wars, so an interesting time in this country. The celebration of birds was absolutely enormous, and this bird particularly. And so the broadcast then became repeated every year. She would do a live transmission, and right up until the Second World War, when she had sort of left the picture, she stopped doing this. She carried on touring internationally. She's a fascinating figure, and it's worth finding out more about her. I've just written a book about the Nightingale that'll be coming out next year, was meant to come out this year, and there's a whole chapter about her absolutely extraordinary life. She was a real sort of daring libertarian suffragette and great kind of pioneer of women's rights and independent living, and broke all the rules of the time. So we have a lot to be thankful for with Beatrice Harrison. But the last live broadcast that happened was in 1943 during the Second World War, where engineers were live broadcasting, I think again from Oxted in Surrey, from nearby her home. And as they were live broadcasting the sound of Wellington and Lancaster bombers on their way over to Mannheim came into audio view of the microphone. So very instantly they pulled the transmission to not let on to the Germans who had been listening that a bombing raid was on its way. But they did keep recording, and indeed that recording is still hearable. It's on YouTube. We should be posting that on our social media very soon to go and listen to the incredible sound of nightingales and the harmonious dark drone of these bombers' engines. It's quite phenomenal. I've just noticed a half waxing moon has just appeared through the leaves above me, which is wonderful to know that there's a clear sky up there, which will be good, because what's going to happen now, we're going to finish this broadcast in a few minutes, and I'm going to get this kit and turn it around, unplug the microphone, and at 10 o'clock we're going to go onto the audio broadcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, which I think most of you are, you'll see there's a separate live audio link for tonight's one, the 29th of April, and you'll see that's the audio only. That way I'll be able to be recording as we're walking down to where the Nightingales. It's about a 20-minute walk, but we've got entertainment on the way. I also want to say that today is a very wonderful day because it's the 1-year anniversary, the 29th. This time last year, we were about 1,500 of us were in Berkeley Square in London, where we were all broadcasting in homage to Beatrice Harrison, Nightingales from our mobile phones, as the ceremonial closing of the 2 weeks of rebellion that had happened for the Spring Uprising, the birth really of Extinction Rebellion. And that was a very, very wonderful event that really pioneered some of this technology we're using today. So it's really wonderful that we start these a year on. So just to say now, thank you very much, all of you, for listening. Please keep supporting us. Please share this on social media if you can, if you're enjoying these broadcasts. If you want to hear the next ones, I have the chapters somewhere. I have written down the names. Oh, where's my little bit of paper? I've lost it. Maybe I burnt it or it got caught in the fire. I don't know. I had a bit of paper. There are lots of amazing events that we're doing for the next 7 nights. Tomorrow night we have the incredible Byron Wallen, one of the great jazz trumpeters playing. We've got on the 1st of May, we've got Justin Adams on electric guitar. He is the guitarist for Robert Plant. Then on the 2nd of May, we have Lisa Knapp, a wonderful English folk songstress. On the 3rd of May, who have we got? We've also got Johnny Byers coming up. We have, I'm doing all this off memory. We've got Alice Zavodsky later on. We've also got the amazing flute player of Highland King, Kim, who will be transmitting from Korea. And we have the shakuhachi playing of Adrian Friedman as well. Some incredible musicians that we've got for you every night, which will happen from 10 o'clock. And I will be here around the fire telling stories. So thanks for your support and your donations and generosity. Thanks for tuning into this. We're going to go and give you 20 minutes or so interval. Go make yourself a cup of tea, get some chocolate biscuits, get your thermos flask, maybe go and get your headphones and go and plug in this into your mobile if you can, and go and have a walk with us. You can walk with us on this. I really recommend the not just sitting at home, but going out into the dark and walking this springtime night. It is certainly here in Sussex a beautiful night, and the more that you can share in the experience in that sense, the better. So thank you very much. I'm Sam Lee. This is the Netflix Singing with Nightingales live at home, coming to you from Sussex. And before this terrible sound of an aeroplane that's coming along gets in the way, we're going to dial out and say, see you very soon. Thank you.